NASCAR Sprint Cup with the NBC Sports app and get closer with driver stats, track information, additional camera angles. Watch live anywhere on any device. Find out more at NBCSports.com/live. Take a look at the rules for this qualifying session. It'll be 3 rounds. The first round, everyone goes out. There's 20 minutes. They can run as many laps as they want. The fastest 24 advance to round 2. Then, once you're in round 2, you only have 10 minutes to make a lap, or 2 or 3 if you think you can get out there and go faster, until the top 12 advance into round 3. That's when the pole will be won in the 3rd round.
And I think what's going to make these multiple rounds even more exciting is you talk about multiple laps, can be multiple runs. And it seems like this Goodyear tire has a decent amount of grip for more than just 1 lap, Jeff. So if someone goes out, makes a mistake, come in, cool their car down, make some adjustments, and get another run in.
Well, certainly like Kyle Busch wasn't in a hurry. He was not going to certainly be one of the first cars out. He wasn't even in his race car yet, much like Martin Truex. They're just leaving tech. So I don't think a lot of these teams appear to be wanting to get on the racetrack early.
Now, last week, it seemed like technical inspection took quite a bit of time, and there was quite a few cars that weren't able to get out onto the grid at the start of the qualifying session. So now it seems like more of the cars are out here. Maybe just 2 or 3 are still back in the garage getting ready to be pushed back out. So enough cars are out here. As far as you see Martin Truex Jr. climbing into his car, he'll drive it out onto pit road and then probably out straight onto the track. But the track now is green. Drivers making their way out. Earlier, Kyle Busch ran the fastest lap in practice at 27.75 seconds. That was the fastest lap we have seen on this racetrack for the Sprint Cup Series. We'll see how fast qualifying goes as the first cars are making their way out onto the track now. Joey Gase will be the first one out on the track. 23-year-old out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
You see part of the racetrack is shaded. Could help these cars see in turn 1. As he drives into turn 1, there's no sun whatsoever. It's completely shaded. You see on the apron, it's the start of the sun come out, and then off in turn 2, the sun gets back on the racetrack. So we'll see how that changes throughout qualifying.
And I think basically this turn 3 right here is going to be the spot that's the most difficult, because not only is the track in the sunshine, but the wind is straight down the backstretch. So the driver's going to be dealing with a tailwind, which will take downforce off the race car, making the entry speed into turn 3 even more difficult.
Joey Gase earlier was able to muster 29.839 seconds in the practice session and not able to back that up in his qualifying run.
Kyle Larson, 80.
It's way off what he ran in practice. You know, I guess what we don't know is while the weather condition has changed, so hasn't the track conditions. It's been Xfinity practice, ARCA practice. So these Cup cars practiced on a very fresh racetrack this morning. This racetrack now has many laps on it, which sometimes can take quicker though.
They're the first cars on the racetrack. We had some rain this morning. The ARCA cars were supposed to be on the racetrack for 2 practices. They didn't get it all practice, and the Cup cars did. So they were the first ones on, and now they're last one. As you heard right there, people had to get out of the throttle coming out of turn 2.
And that kills the momentum down the backstretch.
But it held pretty well. It held better than I thought it was going to.
But he had run a 28 flat in practice, so he's up the racetrack here, though. I'm not sure he can stay wide open. Looking at the lap time, he lost a little bit of speed. This is still much, much slower than the 16 of Greg Biffle practice. 28.67 is first at the moment.
A half a second is a ton of difference. I mean, that is, in racing, a half a second from practice to qualifying, losing the half a second, that is an unbelievable amount.
There won't be a half a second through the entire field. The top 24 will be spread much less than a half second, I imagine, here in this first round. I'm not sure there's quite as much excitement to get on the racetrack.
I was going to say,
he says he's ready.
It looks like everybody's scratching their head going, wait a second, what did those guys just run compared to what they ran this morning?
That's what it was. Wait.
Are you sure?
Did you say a 60?
Yeah.
What did he run in practice? That's what
you're asking is, that's what you're asking. Was it a 27.60 or a 28.60?
Well, it's because we talked about it at the top of the show. With what we saw for speed this morning, we were thinking close to wide open. And then you see these lap times today, and these drivers instantly like, well, I don't want to overdrive the corner and slide up. So, you know, how aggressive see how Carl Edwards does, see if he can find some of that pace.
And the one thing I think really changes the game for the crew chiefs, they right now need to be thinking, do I need to make 2 runs? Is it possible my second run is going to be faster? And if it is, then you want to be on the racetrack now. You want to be on the racetrack early, so the next time you go out, you've had your chance for your tires to cool as much as you can, the engine to cool as much as you can. So that's one thing the crew chiefs need to be thinking about. Maybe you can't do it in 1 run.
Carl Edwards ran a 27.82 earlier this morning, and right now he's not even going to run a 28.60.
He's almost going to be a second. He is almost a second slower than what he was this morning.
Yeah, but the question mark is Trevor Bayne in the 6th car. He is now better than Carl Edwards. Now, he's much slower than he ran in practice as well, but Carl Edwards was our 3rd place car in practice, right? He was behind both Kyle and Kurt Busch, and now, after only 8 cars on the racetrack, he sits 3rd.
And Trevor Bayne is a half a second slower, 0.6 of a second slower than he was in practice, but he didn't slow down as much as Carl Edwards did.
Yeah, relative to it, and very close to coming out. Turn 4 and getting into the wall there, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Now, let's be clear, when they're slower, it's not that they're just looser or they're just tighter. They don't turn as good. It is a combination of everything. For whatever reason, the racetrack does not have the grip in it that it had in practice, and that's overall grip. They don't turn as good. They don't make as much of a grip. You can't drive them as hard. It's hard for a driver to get that in his head. When you go to qualifying, you think you're going to drive it harder.
Right up against the wall for Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
You want to drive the car harder than you ran in practice, but you're having to drive it easier.
And I think he got into the wall.
I think so as well.
I think the right side is flattened from getting into the wall.
They're back in the gas so early, just thinking they have the grip they had earlier, Jeff. They probably were using that mark in practice. And Ricky Stenhouse got in the gas really early in the corner to start to walk up the
Cautions
racetrack.
came out. Look at this. He gets up too high and actually into the wall pretty hard.
Yeah, he's just high up the racetrack trying to correct. And right here you see a big moment of loose.
But, you know, it could have been a lot worse than it was. I don't think it ever hit anything important real hard. It hit their right rear bumper, and then it kind of moved back around. I thought it was going to smack the right front really hard, but it didn't hit it nearly as hard as I thought it was going to. I'm sure there's damage, but it could have been a lot worse. But Steve, you're right. The driver he knows in his head where he needs to lift off the throttle, when he needs to get back in the gas. He has set a strategy going into this qualifying of what he needs to do based on the way his car felt in practice. And typically, you're going to have to pick all those things up quicker in qualifying. You can see the damage right here. You're going to have to know how much further you're going to drive in the corner, how much sooner you're going to get in the gas. And if you go out and try to do that when the track is 7 or 8 tenths slower than it was, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get into the wall, or you're going to have a moment.
That was a moment.
Yes, it was.
Now the crew member there, you see he's allowed to repair it as much as possible without using tools. You see the official right on the right side of your screen, the gentleman in the gray shirt. He's overseeing the repairs. You're not allowed to improve it more than stock, but you are allowed to clearance it because Ricky Stenhouse has every right to go run again, try to make another lap. So the team members, that's Mike Kelly, the car chief right there, not only is clearancing the tire, but I'm sure he's very aware of the aerodynamics of this race car, how it's supposed to look, what direction is better. So you see he's trying to not only clearance the sheet metal off the tire, but you see him push it in a little bit right there. So in front of the tire, you like it flared out, but behind the tire, you don't want it to be a parachute. You don't want it out, sticking out, catching air. So it's important not only to clearance the tire, but get the correct shape.
Yeah, you got to get a guy like Mike Kelly that go over the wall. That's the kind of guy you want. He's a former crew chief, been a crew chief at Xfinity level, been a crew chief at the Cup level. He's now the car chief on this car. So you got a guy over the wall working on that car and knows exactly what the shapes of the quarter panels need to be. He'll get the most he can, as you mentioned, with the tools he has to work with, and essentially that's his hands.
Right. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr., when his career started with Roush Fenway Racing, he was an Xfinity driver, and he went out and ran race after race after race and ended up wrecking cars. And it got to the point where Jack Roush said, hold on, Ricky, I'm taking you out of the car. I'm going to take you out of the car, and I want you to just think about this for a second. You can't be wrecking my race cars. You have to go fast, but you've got to know where that line is. The second he put him back in the car, things got clearer for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He goes out, ends up winning a championship in the Xfinity Series. But it took that wake-up from Jack Roush saying, all right, I know you know how to go over the edge, but I need you to find out where the edge is and run right at the edge. I don't need you to wreck the race cars. I need you to run right at the edge. And he did. He learned.
Well, and that's what makes qualifying in a momentum-based mile-and-a-half track like Kansas so difficult, because you can have an issue in the middle of the corner and maybe be a little slow back to the gas and recover, but Ricky Stenhouse was committed to the throttle a long time ago in that corner. And at that point, Jeff, on corner exit, if he limps at that point, he might as well coast down pit road.
That's right.
So, I mean, yes, you don't want to hit the wall, but you can't be conservative, because even though the speeds are off from what they were in practice, it's not because they're not trying to run fast.
Well, you said when we came on air, you said you have to push. You have to be in the throttle. You have to try to run almost wide open. Just right now, the track is not allowing it.
Right. We'll see how Jamie McMurray does. So earlier in practice, McMurray was able to turn a lap in 27.947 seconds. The shadows coming over the grandstands, covering pretty much the entrance to turn 1, and then as soon as they come out of 4, that part of the racetrack is in shadows now, where earlier today it was overcast, no sun on this racetrack at all, and it seems to have slowed the track down just a bit as McMurray goes up and puts 28.6 second lap and is the fastest, but again, nearly it's a little over half a second slower than when he was in practice.
So let's explain this. A 28.6, what Jamie Murray just ran, and that's P1 right now on the board. That would have been 36 fastest in practice. 36 fastest. That's how different this racetrack is.
Kevin Harvick goes to the top of the board now with a 28.45.
What I find interesting, though, is the last 3 cars that were on the racetrack all found speed enough to go to the top of the board.
Yeah.
Really all 4 with A.J. Allmendinger. So either the track is picking up, they're understanding the grip level in the track, as we're following Clint Boyer right here. Loses a little speed on corner entry. That's a perfect example, Rick. It goes green on corner entry. He's trying to carry speed. It lost a little bit of speed. Now it's coming back. Can he back up turn 3? I think he did. He lost a little time in, but look, I think he should gain time back on exit if he can stay in the throttle. But it looks like it goes up the racetrack.
Yeah, I think he got it.
And the exit or turn 4 is really, really difficult. And, you know, that's the wind. So the wind is basically straight down the back stretch, straight down the front stretch, blowing from turns 1 and 2 towards turns 3 and 4. So when it turns out of turn 4, you're turning into the wind.
Right.
Maybe pushing the car on the racetrack, Jeff.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. That wind is blowing directly towards turns 3 and 4, and it does make a big difference. See Clint Boyer, he throttled up like we talked about Ricky Stenhouse did. Now he's up the racetrack and trying to stay in the gas and gets into the wall. Not real bad. Definitely contact.
Yep.
You know, you mentioned it. Harvick, Dillon, McMurray, Allmendinger, all those guys laid lap times down just a little while ago. Is it the racetrack, or is it the recognition of the racetrack condition? Right. I suspect it's the recognition of the racetrack, understanding what the racetrack doesn't have, and grip, and going out and making sure you just make a clean lap, as we see Martin Truex go to second.
The names on the left of your screen that are in yellow, those are chase drivers. They're part of the round of 12 that are competing in these 3 races: Charlotte, Kansas, Talladega. One of those being Joey Logano. They will be, the indicator will be, their names will be in yellow.
I think what's going to be interesting is if we see that first guy go out on the second run, and the second lap, the second time out on tires is much faster, that is going to change the ballgame. Because we only have just under 11 minutes left in this qualifying session. You won't have a lot of time to react if the second run is quicker.
Shuts it off as soon as he goes across the start-finish line. Joey Logano fastest, 28.37. Ryan Newman, 4th quickest.
Even with the changing conditions, you see on the left side of your screen, the current top 22. Those names highlighted in yellow are the chase drivers. And they're, other than Edwards and Tenth, the other 4 are right up there in the top 5.
Alex Bowman was putting together a pretty good lap. Lost some speed, though, as he was coming out of 2 and then down the backstretch.
How about Max Jensen? Looks like his lap's good, going the wrong way right now. Let's see if he can stop it. Yeah, he does stop it. Now he's got it going back in the right direction. So we'll have a new pole sitter right now.
Top speed so far, Matt Kenseth at 28.298 seconds, averaging just over 190 miles an hour.
And you know, the speed is more than just for the driver. The teams and crew chiefs, they have to adjust the height of the race car, adjust the front packers to try to determine how much travel you're going to get. When you talk about slowing down a half of a second, the car doesn't squish into the pavement.